Okay, so we're off. Thank you and welcome, welcome Kevin and welcome Rebecca. Perhaps we'll be welcoming Aurora soon, but we'll see. Okay, so shall we just continue the conversation that we've been having now about? It seems to be about the planet actually waking up a bit more, repairing itself a bit more. And this seems to be a phenomena that's going on right now. I've been kind of aware of some things. I've been doing some exercises where we're guided into a place. Where I live, there's been a lot of history here. There's been civil wars and armies and so on. And there's a lot of souls died. And it does seem that they've been residing within planet Earth and kind of held back by lower grade energy or beings that are lower grade energy. And some of our exercises have been about releasing that and releasing the Earth's energy to flow. So some of the negative energies have been rising or dissipating, if you like, and some of the natural earth energies are flowing. And we're just talking there before we started recording about some of the key points on the earth that what's the word? That we're bringing attention to them, and we're being guided in that. And when I say we, I'm not talking about just us present here. I'm talking about a larger group of beings, and planting crystals at particular places and setting intentions there. That seems to be an active part of the planet changing and the vibrations rising. That's how I'm understanding it. So I'm interested in how you two understand this, if at all.
Well, yes, I think we had a discussion about this the other day, David, in relation to. In fact, I've just watched that lady Cara Curry again on the Jeff
Yeah.
Marra podcast. I watched that this morning, and she mentions about the Earth being a being, and that's
Yeah.
my understanding. And obviously, being a being, it has frequencies of consciousness, and it is in a cycle of healing at the moment. So what we're talking about is relevant to that, I think. And I think that once we understand that we live in a sea of consciousness and everything is connected, then we affect what we look at, what we see, what we talk about. We affect our collective consciousness. And I watched that whole episode again. It was an hour this morning with that Cara Curry, and I made some notes. And it was fascinating to watch it a second time. In fact, I watched it a second time because I forgot what she said. So I thought I better watch it again. So I watched it again, and this time I made some notes. But watching it a second time, it really brought it home how she's got this contact to the greater reality, as it might be, or the greater consciousness reality, and the different aspects that we are within that consciousness, and that includes the earth itself, the sun, and and all that. But interesting to see someone who's had these near-death experiences and really exists outside of our reality, but incorporates many things that we have access to because her reality is so much greater than ours. And we can then learn from people like her. So I enjoyed watching it again, to be quite honest. And as I say, I made some notes, so I'm sure that I can go through the notes later on and see what else she had to say. In fact, she did mention the void, and she said that the void was home for her. Well, to me, the void is where consciousness makes its creation side of it. So I thought that was quite interesting that she'd got to that aspect of consciousness and was when she was in the void, she felt at home. So that really it goes in line with what I've been taught about the void of consciousness. But accessing it and feeling home there, that's a whole new realm of new feelings and things.
Quite
So yeah.
so, yeah. Yeah, yeah, quite so. It does remind me of an exercise I've done where a workshop leader invited us to go to the place we know as home, and everyone went off to different places in this meditation. And I went off into outer space, not to into the middle of nowhere. Now, I'm not saying it's the void of consciousness I went to, but it's not like I went to a planet, or it's not like I went to a ship. It was just out in the middle of nowhere, and that's appeared to be home for me. Okay, and it sort of gives clues into who we are. I think these experiences, that it offers clues into the multi-dimensional aspect of who we are, and what some of our experiences may have been that we brought here into planet Earth, and to our tasks, our challenges on Earth at this time. Okay, Rebecca, what do you make of all this so far?
Well, all of it makes sense to me, as it does to you. I did listen to her speech. I did. Thank you, Kevin, for sending that. For me, I like to deal in practical things, like instead of just talking about flowers, they're behind you. Tell me what they are, what color they are, how they grow, and so forth. So I understood exactly what she was saying. For the person who doesn't, I think we need to give them those concrete examples. When we're talking about consciousness, we're talking about a spiritual being. So what do we experience? So first of all, I wanted to address that beautiful mention of the crystals. We do use them near the bed because we have a lot of frequencies flying through the air. We have a military base near us with a lot of activity at times. And having the crystals around, making sure everything's unplugged, we don't have anything going electronically in the room. When we sleep at night, the phones are not near us. So I have to cut those things off. And so in order to combat that, I use the crystals as well as a Faraday, not a cage, but I do have a mat that my husband bought for me that I put over the face and head that helps to block frequencies. So the use of them are very important. I do wear them from time to time. So when we talk about land, sea, and air, I think it's a good word also is realignment. We realign ourselves with people. We realign ourselves when we're on the road. We get on the right path. We get on the right roadway. We have to know where we're going. And the earth is realigning itself. I think it's also prayer is helping. Intention is helping. And our thoughts are helping. How hopeful we are. What we speak from our mouth. In terms of experiencing it, I experience the earth sometimes at night, when everything is completely quiet and you can feel things better. It's a wobbling, and it's a slow wobble, but I can feel it I can feel the earth wobbling underneath me. I can also feel explosions from a distance. Sometimes if I get up or the next day, I'll try to locate the area from where I am in the earth. I'll draw a line to where I felt it coming from and see, was there an explosion? Was it a cave-in? Was it something that happened somewhere else, in anything, a volcano, or an eruption of some kind? That helps me know what I'm experiencing. I was looking at something on the outside of our screen when I turned this on this morning, because we have an early morning prayer call that we do. And what came up with this beautiful forest, magical forest out of England. I think it's in the Derbyshire, and it's one of the forests. They call them temperate forests, and
Okay.
they are just as important as the rain, but they're different. And that's why for centuries they were referred to as the mythical places of the fairies and so forth, because of the way they look. They're absolutely incredible, but they're so important for the supportive event of our earth, our land, our air. And the beauty of those that exist in England are astounding. They named one of the national park, one or two here in America, and Japan and China. So they were just how important they are for the alignment to be kept on our Earth, and how we need to protect the land, sea, and air, and now those crystals. So for me, I related to what she said. I was hoping for, and I hope the next time I hear her, that she will talk more about her personal experiences of identification of things, like Kevin, like when you talk about who's who in your life, what has happened, what's the event. I'll finish with this. Recently, which was about 3 weeks ago, I went outside as I do in the evening. Sometimes I'm called to be outside and sometimes not. So when we call, what does that mean? Well, I feel like I'm getting a telephone call. Rebecca, step outside. Look at such and such. We're passing by. This time I went out on my own, and I looked up. I felt them everywhere. Such a peace. So I looked up into the sky, and I said, "Well, would you mind coming on down?" I said, "You're invited." So what happened was a circle coming out of what looked like, how water ripples, how we see the water.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And out of that rippling came, rotating clockwise, were lights at equal distance to one another. And on the inside of what I perceived as the extremeter, or outside of this craft, were the lights going in counterclockwise. And it just came down, acknowledged it was there, pressured into our dimension, and then lifted and went back out. The peace that it left was so reassuring, and I wish that everyone could experience that, even without having a landing or a species stepping out. They're so beautiful sometimes. And this was wonderful. It was good for me. I walked in. I could go to sleep in peace. I felt surrounded, not so much with the angelic realm, but with the extraterrestrial realm that was good, that was positive. But they can't stay for a certain length of time. I understand. I think a section of them are waiting for us to bring about disclosure on a better way, in a better way, and in a better manner. And then there are those that just want to come on and show where they are and deposit themselves and get this going. But I don't think we can really go out as a disclosed group of people on this planet, as spiritual beings in this physical body of this third dimension, until we are able to, like Kevin and you, David, and Karen and Aurora and I and many others, we have to be able to acknowledge the consciousness level, the spiritual level, all of the dimensions. And until we can do that and be at peace on our planet, how can the good ones up there, welcome us into space if we are exploding the nuclear bombs up there, or we are constantly at war? So therefore, the good, the bad, and the ugly needs to be exposed, but we need to be ready as well.
I'm with you in what you're saying there. It does occur to me that the wars that are going on and the bombs and the confrontational approach we have to each other. So one country is railing against another country, and so on. It's all part of a vibration that's more about conflict. Yet that, what I'm also understanding is that is in, although it's quite high profile at the moment, it's also in decline, and there's a stronger undercurrent coming through that people such as us may be aware of, some others maybe not be so aware, that's coming through and influencing how we experience ourselves, how we experience the world around us, and experiencing what we are, what our potential is. So if we have potential that's been dormant for not just for our lifetimes, but for going back generations and generations. That potential beginning to be acknowledged, beginning to seed and to grow, and that potential. I'm talking about potential for healing, potential for psychic abilities, potential for telepathy, potential for being more aware of our energy system and looking after it better than we're used to. Certainly applies in my case. And this is a world that appears to be coming, and it's almost like bits coming forward one at a time. And when I was watching the Cara Curry interview with Jeff Marra, that's what it took my mind. We're exploring who we are, and here's someone that's an example of how we might develop as we grow and as we face some of our challenges, some of our adventures. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree with what you're saying there, David. And another point that Cara Curry said, which I thought was quite interesting, she talked about light and shadow being part of light. But she said shadow forgets that it's alive. And she said that's an example of consciousness being confused. Well, we don't think like that, do we?
No.
But it doesn't make sense to me in relation to looking at things from a different aspect. And shadow is just less light. I'm thinking, yes, simple terms, but an easy way to explain light itself and explaining that it is conscious, which we're probably aware of, that light is conscious energy, but I wasn't aware that shadow was live conscious energy too. It was just less conscious, as it were. So it's interesting when you hear someone else's perspective, because you expand your own knowledge on that. And I think, but she also said that the shadow are aspects of the divine, which I never gave that a thought at all in relation to. I would accept that light itself, light frequencies, are aspects of the divine, but not a shadow. And then she also mentioned a bit later on about shadow beings, how they're sometimes trapped in this void of blackness, as it were, and they can't escape from there. But again, a real low vibration of consciousness itself. And once we realize all these different aspects and we're a part of it, and I like the bit that you said where when we focus our attention, we create our reality. And when we're not focusing on the attention, then we can go elsewhere and look at other things. But we don't tend to do that. We tend to focus on this reality. But we're in a sea of different realities, a sea of consciousness, and it's open to us if you want to access that. So again, really just expanding on my understanding of things, taking it that little bit further each time. So I enjoyed watching it again. And she did mention about at one point where she was in tremendous pain and she was really had enough. She didn't want to wake up tomorrow. And then she was taught how to meditate, and she was able to meditate the pain away. Well, again, if people understand that meditation is a great way of communicating with consciousness itself, and you're an aspect, a fractal of consciousness, then we can control our own health, our own pain, as it were. So yeah, very. I would recommend anybody that's watching today that haven't seen it, watch it. It's only an hour, but it's fascinating, really. And one other thing you did mention, I think she said thought was consciousness. I wrote it down somewhere. Oh no, tell a lie. Time is thought. That was it. And in the equation I was given, the first character in the equation is T, which is thought. And then you've got present time and space time. So really, it's confirming the equation that I was given that's been published in Ray Nandy's book, A Greater Reality. She's just looking at it from her perspective, from the practical perspective of consciousness. And I've already written it down in an equation, not my equation, they gave me the equation. So it shows really that we're all on the same hymn sheet, shall we say, to keep the divine into it. So very interesting to see it coming from someone else's perspective and an extreme perspective, really.
Kevin, that is beautifully said. You've given a review to where I was able to look back with you as you were pointing those things that stood out to you. That's beautiful. Each one of those is a nugget. And I'm remembering as I was watching, as I said, for me, those examples. So when she was talking at the greatest length about the fact that she grew up with seeing beyond the veil, and I related to that, what I was talking about was I hope to hear more of her experiences of seeing those what was seen specifically. That helps the person who has no idea about this or who does not experience these to then go, oh, well, I did feel my mom one time, or oh, I did feel hope. Oh, I did experience a recovery because I thought better. And then so all these things help us. So I understand, but I really appreciate that you pointed those out one by one. That was really beautiful. I'm looking at our backgrounds. This is making me think about something. David, you're there with the earth behind you, of the flowers, the sky. You're sitting on the ground in the garden. Here I am, the second one. I'm out here in that void section, kind of like where my prayer power place is, what I call my app. And I'm looking back at the earth. Then there's Kevin sitting in the craft, traveling. Each one of us is representing a totally different perspective. And and I'm looking at this going, wow, this is really amazing what we've chosen for our backgrounds. Each one is something different. Even the earth that you are seeing behind you in your craft, Kevin, is different from the one that's behind me. I've got a totally different detail. No clouds. You have some clouds, David, but mostly the beauty of the blue sky. I'm full of stars. He's got black behind him and the craft. He's going to instruct us on how to fly. I'm going to tell you what's going on from what I'm seeing here, and you're going to tell us what's happening on the earth. And I'm thinking, if we have these perspectives going on all the time in the groups as we're helping talk to people, because when the Disclosure movie came out, all four of us, Dan's son Jeff, my husband, and my sister and I. And my sister has really refrained from talking about the experience of her seeing something years ago near the ocean side. Well, when we went to see it, it's something for its separate discussion. I hope all four of us can talk about it when we see it, because I know we all have probably different perspectives on it, and what we liked or did not like, or appreciated or didn't, or whatever. So, but after it, what came out of it was not only a good discussion between the four of us, but my sister was open. She was ready to talk about what she had seen. She was ready to be open again, wanted to know, I really did see it. I know I did. It was real. And I said, yes, it was. And so that's always good when we find those openings with people, like in your group, David. What is it that's going to help them move forward to understand something? I think it's probably the teacher in me and the common ground, Kevin, that we found, just like in our own story of meeting one another years after I saw what you saw. And then you walk in with such joy, and there's your book, and so all those things that fell into line that give us our confirmation. I guess that's kind of what I wanted to say. I hope we can talk about the movie and how we can apply that as we help others face disclosure. But I want to know what you all currently think will or will not happen. I'd really like to know your thoughts on that. about disclosure.
Okay. I haven't seen the film yet. I'm due to see it in a couple of days.
Oh, I mean just disclosure in general.
Yeah, I know. Well, my views change. Whereas one time I was thinking about the leaders in the world, sort of negotiating or talking with them, and then I got to think, well, no, the leaders in the world, half of them are psychopaths. They're not really, they're not the people to do this. And in my understanding, there has been contact between some of the leaders in the recent history, over since the Second World War, and it didn't really go anywhere. And my view changed to, no, this is something that's for everyone, whether in Russia or the United States, whether in England, whether in Brazil or India or whatever their religions, whatever their outlooks in life. This is for everyone. This is an invitation for everyone, and I'm still quite attached to that perspective. I do, however, I realise that my view is changing a little bit regarding that also. That is still so, yet there is some negotiation or some dialogue with people in places of power that enable a peaceful kind of transition, I think is the word. A transition into a different perspective, a different way of life. Without that, it does seem to me that there's going to be a lot of turmoil for a lot of people, and lots of fear being raised, and so on. So I'm kind of thinking there's a blend. There's of negotiating with people in positions of responsibility and influence, yet mainly it's about the personal experiences of each and every one of us. Some of us will embrace it, some of us will probably dismiss it. That's just how it is. But it will be there for everyone eventually. And as you know, and I'll say it for the recording, I do a lot of work in past lives, and so my understanding is we are souls. We come into these lives, we're here for a while, then we leave, and then we come again. And so some of those souls who aren't ready for this kind of change now will be ready at some point in their journey. In one sense, there's no race. There's no hurry over this. It's going to happen when it happens. In another sense, it is much more, the potential is much greater when we're ready for it, I think. And the potential to enjoy is that much stronger also. I hope I've answered what you were saying.
But beautifully.
Okay.
You brought a lot of peace.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched the film either yet. I'm going to watch it. I'm looking forward to watching it, but I suspect it'll be the government's narrative in relation to disclosure. They're wanting to control it. And at the moment, they're excluding experiences. They don't even get a say in it. And in fact, I saw something this week where the UN had brought out protocols where people can't communicate with the staff families. If they receive a radio message from them, they can't speak back to them. They've got to go through certain groups. And they've now formulated these different groups who are going to be in control of the communication, but no mention of experiences. And how do you stop the staff families from communicating with you telepathically? How are they going to police that? They can't do that. You know, we're the ones that've got direct contact with them. And there's many of us, many that are speaking out, many that have been speaking out. So they're a bit behind the times. Still trying to give us fear in relation to controlling people. And my understanding is we are moving towards the golden years for humanity. But first of all, there'll be a lot of chaos. And we're seeing the chaos now. And I know that those that control our planet are trying to control the narrative of disclosure for their own basic needs, really, what they need to control people. And they use fear to do that. So I think if you're aware of that, keep watching. But there is information out there. If you go and search it, there's a new group just started called United Experience Initiative, started by Natalie Hill, and she's bringing experiences together so they can tell their stories. Well, I think that's fascinating, really. So the people at the UN and the people within our government should be contacting the experiences groups. There's Costa McCreast. He's over 1 million people now using C5 protocols to connect directly with the star founders. Well, now the UN is saying you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No. Well, you can't stop people, 1 million people, and you can't go out into your back garden and meditate and ask the craft to show themselves. Yes, you can. So they need to include the experiences, and I'm sure there must be some within government, possibly, or within the military, that have had experiences like we do. So we need the experiences need a voice. I don't know where it's going to come from, but we certainly need a voice. And in what Rebecca said earlier about your perspective, Cara Curry said again, move your perspective. Well, you can do. She gave an example, I think, of stood by a river. If you stood by the river, you can't always see the fish that's in it. If you stand in the river, you can see the fish around you. Or if you go and stand on the bridge, you might be able to see the fish in the river. So it depends where you position yourself in relation to what you see. And I think disclosure is like that. We are already positioned, as Rebecca said, with the earth behind us from a different perspective. So we already are out here looking behind us, seeing what's happening. And we're also looking forward to the future to see what's happening. And we also have an understanding of the co-creation and co-creation of timelines. So we can co-create that timeline by talking about it. Can the UN do that? I doubt it. Do they know how to do it? I doubt it. Do these new groups know how to do it? I doubt it. Are they in contact with any extraterrestrials? I doubt it. So why don't they bring in the people who do know about the extraterrestrials and the different beings and let them have a voice? They need to be part of the disclosure. And that's, I think, where it will head that way, or we will have this divide again within the timeline. We'll have the government narrative with the UN, with these scientific groups that they're now formulated, and then we'll have the experiences on this timeline, and we'll both be creating a reality that we live in. But we've already moved our perspective to where the extraterrestrials are already part of our reality. We're all communicating with them. So we have that divide now within a timeline, but because we understand how they are created and co-created, we can make ours bigger and stronger and better.
Beautifully said. Wow. I'm glad that was recorded. You explained, Kevin and David, I think that explains why the craft could only come in for a short period of time. They do know how to bring some of them down. And I mean, this thing was as large as, when I do my hands like this, at a distance, that's a large silver dollar. So when I think about that, that helped me to remember that they also have to protect their own, because we have a lot of technology down here that can cause a lot of disruption in a certain realm, in a certain distance, and they have to be aware of that. That was very kind. That's very well put. I think you've also given me, just from what you both just said, to have a better attitude when I get upset when I watch the congressional hearings, because, Kevin, they don't have the experiencers there. It's just a lot of, we have to be afraid of what's in the sky. We can't tell this. I have an ND. I can't discuss it. I can tell you in the skiff. No, I can't tell you in the skiff. No, the public can know. No, they can't know. And I'm afraid if they had me there in front of a congressional hearing or a Senate, I'd stand up and I'd face the crowd and I would start addressing and naming the books, naming the people to look at, naming the movies to watch, saying you were experienced. And first of all, to start it out with, we're not alone. Let's get this going. Let's get the education there. And I think that's why when I first started speaking, at the top of the PowerPoint, I had this view of space, and then above was God is, UFOs are, get over it, become educated. That's what it was
Yeah.
at the forefront of every speech. And so it's like, well, Miss Renfro, she's got her boots on the ground. Watch out. So anyway, that's thank you. Thank you both. I feel a lot better.
Yeah, I think what you were referring to a moment ago, Kevin, regarding what's happening within the American government and the agencies there, and in respect to communicating with extraterrestrial beings, it kind of demonstrates how far off the mark they are. You know, and they're talking about they're talking with an approach that is becoming redundant. It's becoming outdated, and they're not going to get far with that approach. And yet, that's the approach that they live by all their lives. It's in many respects, it's all they know. So there are prompts for change for them. My understanding is that they're not picking up on those prompts just now. They'll be getting stronger prompts, I think, because I can easily imagine that there are people amongst them who will be very resistant to guys that talk to little green men in spaceships and things like this. The guys who will see themselves at the forefront of science and discovery of the world around us. And yet that is what they're facing. So that there may be some turmoil that comes forward resulting from that. And yet it is what it is. And the other thing is that they're not the ones in charge here.
Right.
You know, ETs will come when they're ready. And when they're ready is more like when we're ready. That's how I understand it. So there's a little way to go in terms of our attitudes to what's going on around us and who we are, and the potential for us to understand ourselves better and to understand ourselves as emerging members of a galactic community. That's where we're heading in that respect, I think, anyway. Yet there are a few people that are very fond of their bits of power that may need to let go of that, or will be letting go of that, you know, one way or another. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. It can be frustrating. It can also be exciting. Yet it is what it is. You know, it's the juggernaut has started, and it's rolling down the hill, and you ain't going to stop it that easily.
Wow, that was sweetly spoken. Very kind to everyone. I think.
Thank you.
Kevin, I think you and David would also agree with me that behind it, those who have been ruling on the planet, such as the Draco and others, are, and the demonic side, not the good side, but the other, or the evil, you just want to say evil side, totally. I also think, as you just phrased it, and really you really did, David, very sweetly, and I hope that's okay for me to use that word, but you was very kind in everything that you addressed, because I think a lot of people don't want to be tar and feathered. They also don't want to lose their family. They don't want to lose their power. They don't want to lose their money. They don't want to lose the technology that they've been in charge of, or the company that it was given to. I understand that, and that requires a change in the heart and the mind and the soul, which many can't release due to fear, or they've been approached, or they have been warned, or they're regulated and they're ruled by. So I understand that. It's kind of like we talk about children and women who are trafficked and who are abused. Well, we have people in power who are also being trafficked and abused, who are in power, and they're caught also between these two sides. And that's the part of me that I want to be open to. That's the part where some can be forgiven and restored, and others are just plain evil. They do not want anything good for humanity. So it's the identification of those sides. That's kind of where what I often think about between disclosure. When I listen to a gentleman by the name of General Carl Nell, Nell. You're shaking your heads. He did a 20-minute presentation from a conference that he was attending. It was the best 20 minutes I've heard on disclosure outside of a lot of the other speakers, those from Britain and America, who have taken the time to put together an educational presentation for 10 or 20 minutes where you listen to them and they say it as it is. So he really impressed me. I thought that would be a good way.
Yeah, I saw that presentation. I thought it was very good, and I've seen him a couple of times speaking. But I think again, I think we will have two sides to this disclosure. We will have the experiences side, and they may try to bring some experiences in. They may try to concoct their own experiences because they don't want to lose that control. So, and as David said, our star families are in control. They have a blueprint. They have a roadmap. They know what they're doing. I see my own story, how it's been guided throughout my life. I wasn't aware of the blueprint then or what's to come in the future. But I clearly see there's a map there. There's a story that's being followed. It deviates from time to time and it moves, but it's basically, you can see it's already planned out what they're going to do. And they have the technology. In fact, someone mentioned me today, I think. What would happen if the extraterrestrials reach out telepathically to the human population in one go? I mean, they can't stop that, can they? When they reach out to me and you as individuals, we have telepathic communications. They've got technologies, they've got telepathy. Just reach out to the whole population, the whole of humanity. Say, we are here, and show us a picture. I know Dan Harari, the head of Hollywood Disclosure, they showed him. We were sat in a cafe having a coffee, reminiscing about his father who'd passed. And while he was sat there, a screen appeared in front of him. In front of him, while he was having his coffee, a screen. And on the screen, it shows him as a child with his father looking at a flying saucer, a UFO. It's hovered over their car, and they showed him the scene. That's the technology they've got. Well, our government, I don't think they have that technology. They've got something similar where they can project an image into the sky, but I don't think they can produce a screen 8 inches in front of you while you sat having a cup of coffee with something that happened 50, 60 years ago. I don't think we have that technology. So they are in control. They're allowing us the freedom, as it were, because we have free will, we have choices, and they're waiting to be invited. We already have a mandated protocol to receive them, which they requested. We also have a planetary constitution written by the exo-conscious community, protecting and outlining the sovereignty of humanity itself as we move forward to become part of the galactic family, part of the cosmos, as it were. So we've already got some documents which have been drafted by experiencers of our government's got documents drafted at a request of our star families. I doubt it very much, but we have them.
Yes, quite, yeah. Can I pick up on something in the Cara Curry film, which she referred to some beings in dark places and pain and so on. And one of the points she was making is that what was needed there was compassion rather than condemnation. And I think this is important. It's an important ingredient that we're not familiar with to some extent. Will make some people good and make other people bad. In my view, it's much healthier for us if we can simply understand ourselves or frame our experiences in terms of working with higher levels of consciousness and lower levels of consciousness. Those that are operating at lower levels of consciousness are very familiar with experiences such as fear, control, being controlled, needing to control someone, deception, the whole lot, in order that they could, and some of these, the dark beings can be like that. When working with them, there's an invitation for them to change if they wish. It's entirely down to them. So when we talk about the draconians and the archons and so on, and I do agree that they've had a high level of influence on how how humanity operates, yet condemning them just pushes them into an even darker place. Offering compassion to them, okay, you've been the guys that have had to take on this role of being like this. You don't have to anymore. It's changing. You are free to bring your consciousness up to a different level, and you are free to experience other experiences beyond fear and control into warmth or moving towards love. Don't want to do too much too soon. They've got a bit of a way to go, but so what I'm referring to is that, in a sense, we're all one. So when we change, when we have the invitation to raise our vibration, it applies to them also. They don't necessarily accept the invitation, yet it is there for them. And in some of the experiences I have with working in spirit release areas, when some of them start to accept the invitation, those other ones who are steadfast and won't go there start to open up and start to accept that they don't have to continue being like that. They don't have to continue with that operandi modus of operandi. Probably said that wrong, haven't I? That mode of operation. I thought I knew Latin for a moment then, but but I was found out. Anyway, so there's all sorts of beings operating at all kinds of different levels, often in terms of service to self. Yet there are many beings operating more and more in terms of service to others. And so we're moving in that direction of service to others, but it applies to those beings also. You have to be careful with them also, because, as I said, they can be pretty smart and pretty good at deception. But just having compassion for them in what they are and where they're doing and what they feel they need to do to control and to use fear as a way of enabling them to have control is is a way of being that sucks, to be honest. And just having compassion for that, and the invitation for him to move on from that is valuable in my experience.
Here again,
Well,
you
Dave,
go ahead.
Dave, after that speech, I'm going to be more compassionate now. And that Cara Curry, I can't say that's two words, two C's together. Cara Curry, she what you said there in 20 minutes, she said in 5 words. She, she said, what you damns you back. So there we are, you see.
Yeah,
So we need to be compassionate.
yeah,
So compassion back.
That was
yeah.
in the morning prayer about, because the last words that Jesus said to the disciples, love one another. And although that's a difficult thing to do with some people, some situations, it extends beyond what we even know. As a believer and follower in Christ, when I look to forgive, I picture, would I be able to be up on a cross looking down at those who are hurting me? Would I be able to say, I forgive you? If someone threw me into jail, would I be able to look at them and say, I forgive you? If someone hit me, cut me, abducted me, would I be able to say, I forgive you? And you reminded me of that, because that word love is the conquering thing of everything. It moves through every part of our being and moves through the spiritual side. I think it's what moves and creates the universe, is his love of everything. Your love of flowers, my love of my view, your love of your view. And in the book, when you talked about the figures, there was a large a man by the name of Jack. He was an overseer over a group. I can't explain this because I don't know it or understand it all, but I was taken to a place, a particular room in it was out west area in this particular house, and a large Draco type, elephant shape Draco, it was an enormous creature, had broken away from the group and wanted to experience love. And Jack had a hold of it, took my hand, and then also and said, would you please hug much as you can this giant foot that was like a triple size of an elephant. Not just one, I mean, it was huge. And it wanted to experience love and forgiveness. And Jack was bringing it to me because it wanted to move away out of its home life of where it had been and to change. That's the only one I've had on that kind of experience. Now, in terms of the grays, and I did kind of allude this, Kevin, at the end of my book. I didn't write it out extensively, but there was a group that wanted to be forgiven for what they've done to humanity, the abductions, the DNA, the new creatures of what they're using, what the Draco are using, but they in turn were hurt by the Draco destroying their planet. So it's interesting to see how this echoes down the line, and when we reach a break, when I listen to those in trafficking, I've listened to some people out of wealthy families who, when they got to the point of being a part of a secret society and they got to the point where they had to kill a baby, they ran. They would withdraw out of their family, and they would withdraw and go into hiding, or they would start reporting. And isn't that interesting that we have that area or that example or that place where we go, I'm not going to cross this one. I'm not going to do it. And I think we all have that. You talked about the shadow. I do mention that in my book. I saw them as a child. There were 3 behind my grandmother. I talk about that incident. I still don't know who they were. I had an incident at 10. There was a shadow figure that led me through somewhere to look at this futuristic scientific area where they were working timelines. I can't tell you I explain it. I know I was there, and it exists. Scientists would be able to explain it a lot better. And now I occasionally see shadow figures at different points or places. And I've often wondered if some are there for a purpose and others are caught. Now, you're going to understand this probably a lot better. I don't deal with past lives, so that's never been my focus. That is your area, David. And I was brought up in the church that you can't think or talk about that and this and that. So that's okay. What I want to mention is when my cousin died, and my other cousin went to the hospital to see him and was there, and he was still angry and belligerent and full of darkness and hatred and anger. And when he passed, somewhere within that month, I was in bed, I was awake, sitting up, waiting for my husband to finish his shower to come on in bed or wherever he was coming from, and the outside of the doorway of our room appeared a very dark shadow. And I recognized who it was. It was my cousin. And this is a male figure, a male person. And behind it was another shadow, but it was more like a leader, some type of entity. It wasn't bad. It wasn't anything demonic. It was accompanying in standing in back of my cousin, saying, "You are allowed to speak to her, but you cannot enter the bedroom. This is your space. You can address her from here." And I'm sitting up in bed looking at this, and my cousin's holding a wooden box in his hand, approximately this size.
Yeah.
There we go. Wooden box that had some symbols on it. I have no idea what that is. And he wants to ask for forgiveness and to apologize for having harmed me. I'm not going to go into what he did in my life and my association with him. And then he was to be taken away. The entity did not say he's going to hell or whatever, but it was a process. Maybe this purgatory that the Catholic Church talks about is a deep reality of some sort. Here again, it is an area where I'm not an expertise. I've studied this, and I know everyone has their own theory, but when it happened, it again was a resounding part of my soul that the forgiveness goes a lot deeper than where we are, even in this reality. And Kevin, you've read my book. You know that child, that 2-year-old child in that little container of the book. Yes, okay? It looked up at me. I had been praying for my other cousin who had died. Okay? So what does this child do? It sees the dead spirit next to me saying, "Thank you for praying for my soul." What? I mean, I didn't know that child. I mean, what God can use for us is astounding if we'll just acknowledge and say, here it is, beyond our theology. That as followers of Christ, I'm learning every day that his preachings go a lot deeper than what is there. When I think of Joseph Bloomrich, who read Ezekiel's vision and then designed the lunar landing module out of NASA. Wow. And then came to faith after that. So thank you for mentioning those figures and for reminding me of that. I get a little teary-eyed, and so I'll stop talking. So females do that, I guess we do.
Well, I can recommend your book for the readers and watchers. It's Quantum Windows and Dimensions.
Hold up yours.
Rebecca Renfro on the back there, look. And it says A Christian Woman's Journey of Faith and ET Contact.
And now hold up yours, Kevin.
An excellent read. No, I don't have a copy of mine. No.
I'll find it before we leave. I'll find it.
And I don't have a book. I'm a slow enough reader, never mind a writer.
Oh, there we are. We're all at different stages, aren't we? So,
can you get
before we finish, I wanted to touch on going back to Cara Curry.
Yeah.
At the end, she held up what's she called it? Like a diagram. I've got a copy of the diagram here. Just a second.
David, you've held a beautiful, beautiful video today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's good. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
She was talking about, I think, the soul and the different areas of the soul, of the areas of the expertise that it uses. And she showed a diagram, and each point on that diagram was connected with the different souls that she'd been. And this is very similar to the diagram that she held up.
Oh, yeah.
Very similar indeed. I was given that by someone that did a reading for me, and she tore it out of her papers, and she's done it a long time. I don't know what the date is on it. 2006 it says. Oh no, 96. Anyway, but it was almost identical. And what the woman that was reading my reading said to me, Kevin, that's you in the middle. That's the dot. Well, that's what Cara's was. She's the dot in the middle. But she understood all those different points on the diagram were experiences of her soul. So we all have these, I'm sure, but we're not aware of them. If we were aware of this with the past lives, with the soul's experience within those lives, that makes you a complete whole light being. And I'm aware that we are light beings. So she said, once you reach that understanding of yourself, of who you are, that you are a light being having a physical experience in a holographic universe. Well, I mean, that's just it really is joining more and more dots together. Wow. But that's why we have to listen to other people's perspective, because it helps us expand our own knowledge and understanding of who we are, the universe we live in, and to quote Ray and Andy's book, the understanding of a greater reality itself. So, and we restrict ourselves with our limited perspective, I think. And once we expand our knowledge, our consciousness, we expand humanity's collective consciousness, I believe. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a meditation, I was giving something similar once, where I saw a whole line of characters, from historical characters coming in front of me, and I was wondering, what's all this? And we went inside a house that was brilliantly light, and I invited all these other characters to join me in this house, and whoever it was that was hosting us there simply said, it was brilliantly light, simply said, "Thank you." And then I when I went off somewhere, and I was shown a big ball with spikes sticking out. No, not sharp spikes. I mean prods sticking out. And my focus went to one of those prods, and I thought, this is me in my human life now. So that diagram there, it's constructed differently, but I realised that what I saw then was, offering the same kind of message as what that's showing us here. Yeah. Anyway.
And I think it's important to get that confirmation, isn't it? Which is what we get when we discuss these things. A bit like the lady who was planting the crystals in the southern hemisphere. She wasn't aware there were two people that had been planting crystals in them.
She didn't really understand why she was doing it, But
exactly. She understands that the ley lines of the earth have been repaired by the figures in the crystals, but there's already somebody else doing it in the northern hemisphere, directed by the extraterrestrials. So we've really gone round in a full circle again from where we started, and completing that circle. And within that, everything that we've discussed, all the extra information we've gleaned today by our discussion. So yeah, that's why I think these things that Dave organises are important, because we expand our own collective consciousness.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just checking the time, and there's other stuff I'd love to talk about, but I think we're running out of time, to be honest. I could introduce something else about plasma, for example, which would take us another hour or more talking about it.
Well, it is 1:11. It is 1:11 on my clock.
Oh, right. It's
that's finished. That's then done.
Yeah. So maybe this is the appropriate time to bring it to an end.
It's up to you.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca, is there anything further that you wish to say about this, or Yeah, there is other stuff I can talk about, but it's going to be long stuff, I think, if I did. So I'll
You
save it for
confirmed
another
something.
day.
Both of you confirmed something. When you were describing your circle with those spikes out, the early Sputnik and those
Yeah.
satellites were designed very much like that. You were
Yeah.
given an image that was very appropriate. They pick up the signals. My husband in tech understands that a lot better than I do. And Kevin, when you mentioned the lines, I realized it's geometry. There's a geometric structure in what you held up. And one of the things I've never been able to explain, I would stand in front of the mirror as a child growing up in the little house that we had on Pablo here. And I would look into the mirror. I would be brushing my teeth or combing my hair, growing up. And I would look in this mirror and I would see a line coming down in this direction and another line here. And the one coming down to my right side and then a line going up here. I never understood it. I think it'd be nice if you could send me the chart that you had received. Maybe it'll just help me to connect with what you were given. But also, this is something that I've been trying to think about, is that I was allowed, that's a whole another discussion unto itself, but I think you were explaining something, that confirmation as a result of us talking to one another, like, you're the earth, David, you've got the earth, I'm up here from my perspective, and you're already in the craft traveling, Kevin. So it's
Time to get away. Time to
this
get
is
away.
really good. I want to be back aboard so badly. It's very hard, but yet we're here for a purpose, and I think we need to remain in the 3D and do what we're still called to do. You still have people to work with, David. So do you, Kevin, and I know I do. Some days we just want to go. We want to go home, and that's where home is. This is where home is for me.
Yeah. In the meantime, while we're here, let's make it an adventure.
Oh,
I'm all for that, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay.
amen to that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, each of you. And we'll arrange another... I'll bring the recording to an end now.